Hello, brothers and sisters. Raven here, and I have continued to try to get through more of building Christian character. And really, this is almost pointless. I'm going to show a little bit here, but the thing is, as I've said, a lot of the teachings are under the surface of this, between the lines. They are trying to look better in this book, and because of that, I'm seeing more and more contradictions. There are places where some of what he teaches here doesn't quite fit in with other things he's saying, but in particular, it completely contrasts what's in some of his other books. So I really feel like this is kind of useless. I am going to keep going through it occasionally because I feel like this is one that they push on people more, so it's probably good to have it up every now and then for those of you who have left so that you can see a bit of how they twisted words, how they hid their views when you first entered, when you first came, so that you know what they've kept under the surface and how they slowly pulled you in. So I'm going to read one quote, and the reason I want to go through this is because there's lots of different things in this. This is, as with most of his writing, kind of random in that there's so many different things coming up at once in this. And I just want to point them out because, like I said, they're between the lines, they're under the surface, and he tries to hide them. Bluntly in one case. So, here we go. On page 8 it said, "The very word atonement suggests, as so many have shown, that salvation is oneness with the God who himself is one. So oneness becomes the hallmark of the saved. Oneness with God and oneness within ourselves, not letting our minds, hearts, or bodies conflict with each other and not letting them conflict with God. Oneness with our family, both natural and spiritual. Oneness with creation and our environment. This includes oneness between, on the one hand, our daily vocation, work, and home life, and on the other hand, the principles and vision of the God whom we profess with our minds to serve. Cleanliness, holiness, orderliness, good stewardship of resources, caring for our animals, our tools, and so on would all fall under this category." So, to start off, I'm going to go with something that's at the end. Okay, this I just kind of want to bring up, mention, and point out what he's doing. As I've shown in other videos, particularly the one talking about life against death. That book, if you remember, showed a lot of him trying to sort of camouflage New Age and Hinduism and all that, and try to bring in some of those teachings, but making it look not quite that bad. Well, here he did it again. But here he did it a little more subtly, and yet not so hidden. It said, oneness with creation and our environment, which sounds rather New Age. But then after that he says, on the other hand, the principles and vision of the God whom we profess with our minds to serve. First of all, let me say, before I really discuss this, let me explain why this bothers me. Oneness with creation? No. Oneness with creation, the problem is, it's cursed. God has cursed it. God has said we won't have that. God has said we will struggle to grow food. It's a curse of sin. We're not supposed to really be at one with it. We're fighting it. We're struggling against it. This kind of goes contrary to Scripture. In an indirect manner, but it still does. But this comes from teaching of another worldview, another religion, and he wants to put it in here. But what he did was he brought up this idea of it being about principles, homework and life, holiness, all this stuff. But there's two parts of this explanation I want you to notice. Includes, and where he says, and so on. He's saying these things are included in what is this oneness with creation and environment. But he says, and so on. By saying includes and so on, he's showing there's more to this. But he wants your focus on this stuff. He doesn't want you to realize this is a new age perspective. He wants you to see the other things that aren't as bad, that look more Christian, that look more reasonable. But you go and you read more of his books, as I've said, you're not going to see what's here. You're going to see more, and you're going to reinterpret this if you go back and read it again. That's kind of what he's doing here with this, is he's trying to make it sound like one thing when he's talking about something else. That's what this is. Now here's the kicker. He's talking about oneness, and he says, oneness within ourselves. Sounds a little new age once again. But nobody says in parentheses, not letting our minds, hearts, or bodies conflict with each other, and not letting them conflict with God. Not letting them conflict with God. This is more of just oneness with God. Or, so they say. You go further into their teachings and you find out, no, he's talking about oneness with the community. That's why he wants you to do this. He teaches, after this in other books, this balance comes from giving up yourself, going to this community. So he starts off here giving it a good look, a good flavor, but also setting it up so that later he can take it the other direction. That's what this book is. This book is not about showing you what they really teach. This book is not about really giving you the right teachings. This is about getting you into a position where you're ready to be drawn in by their teachings. You're ready to join them before you really know what you're joining. So yeah, this is a very, very disturbing book to read. As you can see, page 8, I was able to skip some because what happened was before this, he talked a lot about salvation with infants, like how that works. And really, that's a debatable topic. I don't care what position you're from. There's nothing absolute certain in Scripture about that. It's pretty hard to be sure. So I'm not getting into a debate about that. But there's another thing he did. And this was more of a general thing that I felt like, you know what, I've talked about it a bit, so I just want to mention it. He took what they've been doing with works and faith and the way they've reversed them and make it more of works bring faith. And started to kind of confuse which came first between works and love. Very twisted way of doing it, where he was not saying it as directly as usual, but implying your children being obedient, making them obedient, will make them truly love, because then it's real love. Very mixed up, inverting everything. That's what they do so much of. And that's what you can kind of see here. Making it sound like it's about oneness on a more individual level, when really it's just setting the stage to completely remove all individuality. That's what he even does right after this, is tries to give a certain portrayal of you as an individual. But as we've seen in his other books, he then goes and says no individuality. Get rid of that. That's bad. He's a hypocrite. So be wary of this book. Be very careful. Because one, plenty of lies in this, as far as what they believe. Two, there's plenty of hints toward it you won't recognize unless you know their language and their beliefs well enough. God bless.